how to resolve issues in your past to help you be more successful and happier in this life. Coming up. Hi everyone, this is Dr. Ernesto from AttaBoyCowBoy. On this channel, we give you health and wealth tips to help you be more successful. Now, today I want to talk about resolving issues in your past. When I say your past, it could be this morning, it could be from your childhood, or it could even be in past lives. And first I want to start you off with an analogy. I want you to look at this big hill behind me and think about yourself climbing up this hill. And as you're climbing up this hill, which is your life, kind of like a timeline, you have this big backpack. And as things happen to you, good and bad, you either put weight into your backpack or you take weight out. As you resolve issues, you're removing weight. As you have bad experiences, which we all have, you add weight. So as you're moving up this timeline, up this hill, the weight gets heavier and heavier. And the more weight you have, the harder it is to get through your life and to be happy, to be successful, to reach a lot of your goals. So the idea is, as if you've often heard, is to forgive and forget. That's easy to do, but how do you do that? So I'm gonna give you 3 tips that I use and that I recommend to people to help them resolve issues in their life, to help them be happier and be more successful. So first off, let's just remember who we are. We're very dynamic. We're tied to all the people around us. We have these symbiotic relationships with interpersonal relationships everywhere, with neighbors, with friends, with family, with coworkers. And as many of you have had the experience of having a new partner or a wife or a husband or a boyfriend, they'll share with you their past life, their past relationships, and they'll talk about maybe things that may have happened to them that weren't so good. And you'll notice that they'll carry a lot of that baggage with them. We call it emotional baggage. And you'll probably notice it in yourself. You might have problems maybe trusting a new girlfriend or a new boyfriend because maybe you had a girlfriend or boyfriend in the past that wasn't real faithful to you, etc., etc. So in order for you to move on and to be happier with your new partners and your new relationships and your new coworkers, you need to resolve these issues you've had in the past. And the happier they are, the happier you're gonna be. And remember that a lot of times emotional suffering can be much worse than physical suffering. I've seen that many times in the hospital talking to patients where they had some horrendous accidents and they've had traumas and they're dying, etc. And all they can talk about are not the physical ailments, but other things like psychological things that may have happened to them in the past, with girlfriends or boyfriends or fights within family members or things of that nature. So it's interesting to see in the hospital, and I also see it in my everyday life with the people that I work with. So let's talk about the 3 steps. The first step is meditation. Now, you hear a lot about meditation and it sounds like this, hokey pokey thing, but it's a really simple process and it's really effective and it helps me a lot. What I do is I just stay quiet, I'll lay down, I close my eyes, focus in on my breathing, and you just try to quiet your mind. They call it your monkey mind. As you quiet your mind, you start to hear things inside of your body, inside your brain. And a lot of times for me and with the people I work with, they'll tell me they'll start hearing or experiencing things that they had in the past that were traumatic for them. They'll come up. When your mind is quiet, you'll start remembering, a fight you had with a sibling or a fight with a coworker or a disagreement with your wife. And you'll start thinking about, wow, that really bothered me. That really made me feel bad. Well, if it's coming up in your mind, it's obviously something that's weighing you down. Now remember, your brain, you're using about 10%. The 10% is your conscious brain. That's what you hear, feel, see all around you at the moment. The 90% is your subconscious brain. That's like your past life. Those are past experiences. But that 90% weighs down on the 10%. So you want to improve that 90 so you can improve the 10% and be happier. So meditation is a good way to kind of flesh out what you might have in your mind that might be weighing you down. Sometimes you have things that are bothering you, and you might notice, or your coworkers might notice, you're in a bad mood, but you're not consciously aware of why you're upset. So when you kind of quiet your mind and think, it'll come out. You know what, I'm really upset about what happened with my mom last week. I had this bad conversation, or we had a disagreement or whatever, and it kind of brings the things to the surface. It's really effective. So you'll notice the same thing with your friends, your coworkers, even like your partner. You can talk to them. If they're not up for meditation stuff, you can just let them talk and listen to them. Let them start bringing up things, and they'll flesh out on their own things that might be bothering them. They're gonna feel a lot better, and you guys are gonna have a better relationship together because of it. Now, step number 2, you have to come up with a game plan. What's the goal? Well, there's 3 actually. There's 3 parts to step 2. The first one is to be the best person you can be. You don't wanna go through this life being subpar. You wanna be the best of whoever you are. You just wanna be the best at it. Second one is you wanna be the happiest you can be. And the third, you wanna be the most successful you can be. And success is your measurement of success, not others. Don't look at what other people are thinking or saying about you. Look at yourself. Did you achieve what you wanted to do? Did you learn how to play the piano? Did you learn another language? Did you get to travel to that city you've always wanted to visit? Did you learn that new skill or that new trade you wanted? Whatever it is you wanted to achieve, that's what success is. And then the third step for resolving these issues are my favorite, past life regressions. Now, I had this experience maybe 20 years ago with my cousin Barbara. She gave me some past life regressions, and I also did it with my cousin Joyce in Iowa, and it's helped me for like the last 20 years. And I've talked to patients about it, and I've talked to others who have actually tried it, and it's also been very beneficial for them. And let me explain a little bit about that. Let me tell you about the first experience I had. It's kind of like a deep meditation, and you go into your subconscious and you start bringing out things that you might have, or experiences I should say, that you might have had in other lives. If you're interested in learning more about it, a really good book to read is Brian Weiss, Dr. Brian Weiss. He's a psychiatrist in Miami. It's called Many Lives, Many Masters. But my particular experience was, I did a regression with my cousin. I was sitting on the couch, and all of a sudden I could see all these things. I was in World War II in a foxhole. And she was asking me what I was seeing, and I wasn't open. I thought, oh, how does she know what I'm seeing? She doesn't know, right? Well, she started describing what I was seeing, and that opened me up. It made me have a lot more faith in her in the process. And what I saw was really interesting. And I'll share with you the story that played out. I was in World War II in France. I was an American, and I was in a foxhole fighting with my friend Aaron, who I have in this life. He's one of my good friends. So Aaron and I were fighting, and we took a smoke break. We both stopped, we were talking, we were smoking a cigarette, and someone threw a grenade into the foxhole, and the foxhole blew up my friend and blew both of my arms off. Very traumatic experience. And when I was envisioning this in my mind, I was kind of replaying it. I was getting sweaty, I was getting hot. It was making me, I felt very fearful. And this is something that I never experienced in this lifetime, but it happened during World War II, which is about, 80 years ago or so. So I survived. They amputated both of my arms, and I was sent back home. I was from Connecticut. Went back to Connecticut. My family owned the bakery. They made me the manager. So I used to run this bakery, and I was a young man. But I had this frustration, and I could see and feel the frustration as I was thinking of this whole experience, where I couldn't go out with any girls. No one wanted to go out with me because I was a guy with no arms. And I was sexually frustrating. As you can imagine, I couldn't masturbate, I couldn't do anything. So I basically had no sexual experiences, even though I wanted them in that lifetime. So that lifetime passed. I'm born again in this life. And as my cousin was telling me, that one of my goals, which I was not aware of, was to resolve that issue. And a way of resolving it is I needed to learn about love and sexuality in this life. So I needed to have some deep, loving and sexual experiences with a partner, like a girlfriend or a wife or whatever. or whichever it was that came first for me. So that was the first experience. The second experience explained a lot to me. I've always had a really close relationship with my parents and my siblings. Oftentimes in my interpersonal relationships, it kind of interferes because my girlfriends might be, hey, you know what? Why are you always hanging out with your parents? Why are you always concerned about your sisters and your brother? Why are you always doing things for them? Why don't you give me a little bit more of that attention? You know, so it creates a little bit of jealousy. So I went into this regression and I saw myself in France during the Black Plague. And I was the father. My mom, my dad, my siblings that I have in this life were all my children in that past life in France. So I was really concerned about them. I didn't want them to die due to the Black Plague, which wiped out over a third of the people in Europe at the time. So what I did was I moved them to the countryside, to a cabin. I left them there so they were safe. I went back to the city and I continued working again as a baker. It's funny because I was a baker in the other life also. And I was raising money to send food to my family, etc. Well, I ended up getting the Black Plague and I ended up dying. So then, fast forward to this life, my mom and my dad and my siblings are actually my children from a past life. And that's why I feel such a strong connection for them, almost like a motherly or fatherly connection. I'm always concerned about them. They're in my mind a lot. And I'm wondering about what I can do, you know, to make them happier or more successful, or they're safe, etc. So the point of the story is that understanding things that may have happened to you in your past and resolving them will help you be more successful and happier in this life. And I'll give you a simpler example. My friend Anita has a fear of swimming, and I wanted her to learn how to swim. So we kept trying to swim and do things, and she just wasn't having it. She was really scared. Every time she saw water or a pool, she was scared to death of it. So she went and did her past life regression, and they found that in one of her past lives, she was an American Indian, and she was being carried by her mother on the back, kind of like a little backpack, like a cloth, and her mom was crossing a river. As she was crossing the river, the current got really strong and it knocked the mom over, and Anita was lodged loose from that backpack and she floated downstream. The mom struggled to try to recover her and save her, but she couldn't. So she actually drowned as a baby in that river. So that somehow got recorded into her subconscious, and in this life, she still has that fear. Now, using that example, what she should do is try to learn how to swim, get over that fear of swimming, so she can reduce that fear, but also reduce the weight on her backpack. Remember I talked about climbing the mountain, having that weight in your back? You don't want to have this emotional baggage from this life or the past one. So the idea is to try to recover those memories and try to resolve them so that you're not carrying them forward and they're not impacting you in the present. So as much as you can, you want to try to flesh those out. Easiest way to do it, as I mentioned before, is just to meditate and wait for them to surface. As they come to the surface, you would deal with them accordingly. You meditate, you think about them, you talk about them. You talk about them with friends, you talk about them with your therapist, whoever it is, and you just resolve it. Once you feel that, how will you know it's resolved? You're gonna know it's resolved when you stop thinking about it, when it stops coming up. I have disagreements I had with people in my life maybe 20, 30 years ago, and I'll still think about them every once in a while. Wow, and I'll say, wow, you know what? I was really unfair that time. I shouldn't have done that. I don't know why I did that, but the point is that it happened. You can't really change the past. You can resolve it. And sometimes I talk to patients or clients and they'll say, hey, you know what, but it wasn't my fault. I didn't do anything. It was other person's fault. Well, that's not gonna really help you progress. Now, remember your 3 goals: to be happy, be successful, and be the best you can be. If you wanna be elite or you wanna be the best, you need to resolve things and you need to take responsibility and own things. So sometimes you might have a disagreement with someone and you could be 99% correct and the other person could be 1% correct. But understand that that 1% is what's important if you want to be number one, or you want to be elite, you want to be successful. Now, that other person might say, hey, you know what? They're totally irrational and I could just write them off. But I'm losing the benefit of the learning experience if I do that. I don't want to do that. Don't dismiss things. If people around you have issues with you, or they feel you've done something wrong, they may not always be correct. You don't have to accept everything they say, but at least think about it and see if there's something in there that you could say, hey, you know what? This person is 90% wrong, but I'm at least 10% wrong, and I recognize that I did this thing wrong and I can improve that. And maybe not necessarily for their sake, but for my sake, because again, I want to be the best I can be, and I want to be able to analyze and improve the way I think about things and I do things with people. That's going to be what makes you the most effective in your life, and it's going to bring you the most happiness. Now, the better it is that you get at that, at resolving issues and dumping weight out, getting them past you, whether it's this morning, last year, childhood, or past life, the easier it's going to be for you to climb this mountain and get to the top, get to the apex, get to Mount Everest, or whatever it might be your goal is. So thank you again for listening. And if you have any comments or questions, please do so below. Thank you. Bye-bye.